The notification sound from my phone cut through the silence of my garage like a knife. I wiped the grease off my hands with an old rag and glanced at the screen. A text from my wife, Alicia. Working late again. Don't wait up. At 11:30 on a Friday night, the third time this week. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I set the phone down on my workbench and stared at the half-assembled engine in front of me. 23 years of marriage, and it had come to this. Lies delivered via text message while I worked alone in my garage, trying to keep my small auto repair business afloat. My name is Eddie Sullivan, and if you'd told me 6 months ago that I'd be planning the most elaborate revenge scheme this side of a Hollywood thriller, I would have laughed in your face. But here's the thing about being pushed too far. Eventually, even the nicest guy reaches his breaking point. It all started with Alicia's sister, Vanessa. Vanessa Pierce swept into our lives like a hurricane in designer heels. She'd always been the golden child, the one who married the investment banker, lived in the mansion on Beacon Hill, and treated everyone else like they were her personal servants. When her marriage imploded in a very public, very expensive divorce, she needed somewhere to regroup. Lucky us. It'll just be for a few weeks, Alicia had said, not really asking for my opinion. She's family, Eddie. She needs our support. That was 4 months ago. I came home from the shop on a Tuesday evening to find Vanessa lounging in my recliner, her manicured feet propped up on my coffee table, sipping wine from my good glasses, the ones we saved for special occasions. Eddie, she called out without looking up from her phone. Be a dear and grab me another bottle from the kitchen. This one's nearly empty. I stood in the doorway, still wearing my work clothes, grease under my fingernails, and stared at this woman who'd taken over my house. Where's Alicia? Yoga class. She's trying to get back in shape, poor thing, all those years of letting herself go. Vanessa finally looked up, her perfectly sculpted eyebrows raised in expectation. The wine? I walked past her to the kitchen, each step feeling heavier than the last. When I opened the refrigerator, I found it stocked with expensive organic everything, stuff I definitely hadn't bought and couldn't afford. The grocery bill had tripled since Vanessa arrived, but apparently that was my problem to solve. You know, Vanessa continued from the living room, her voice carrying that particular tone rich people use when they're about to insult you, Alicia deserves so much better than this. I paused, my hand on the wine bottle. Excuse me? This house, this life. She had such potential when we were younger. I always wondered what would have happened if she hadn't settled. The word settled hung in the air like a bad smell. I grabbed the wine and walked back to the living room, where Vanessa had made herself even more comfortable, her expensive purse and shoes scattered across my floor like she owned the place. Here's your wine, I said, setting it down harder than necessary. She didn't even thank me, just poured herself another glass and went back to scrolling through her phone. Oh, and Eddie, I'm having some friends over tomorrow night. Nothing fancy, just cocktails and catching up. You won't mind making yourself scarce, will you? It wasn't really a question. That night, I lay in bed next to Alicia, staring at the ceiling. She was already asleep, or pretending to be. The space between us felt like an ocean. Alicia, I whispered. No response. Your sister thinks you settled when you married me. Still nothing, but I could tell by her breathing that she was awake. The next evening, I came home to find my house transformed. Vanessa's few friends turned out to be a dozen of the most pretentious people I'd ever seen, all holding martini glasses and speaking in the kind of loud, performative voices that screamed, "Look how important I am." I tried to slip upstairs unnoticed, but Vanessa's voice cut across the room. Everyone, this is Eddie, Alicia's husband. He fixes cars for a living. Isn't that authentic? The way she said authentic made it sound like a disease. A woman in a fur coat that probably cost more than my truck looked me up and down like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. How fascinating. Do you enjoy working with your hands? Before I could answer, Vanessa laughed. That particular laugh rich women perfect in finishing school. Oh, Eddie's very good with his hands. Aren't you, Eddie? All those years of manual labor. The group tittered like a flock of well-dressed vultures. I felt my face burning, but I forced a smile. Oh, excuse me, I need to change. As I headed for the stairs, I heard Vanessa stage whisper to her audience. Poor Alicia. She could have been anything, but she chose this. That night marked the beginning of the end. Over the next few weeks, Vanessa's presence in our house grew more oppressive. She redecorated our living room without asking, replacing our comfortable furniture with sterile, modern pieces that looked like they belonged in a museum. She threw dinner parties where I was either ignored completely or treated like the hired help. She made comments about my appearance, my job, my truck, and my limited education with the surgical precision of someone who'd perfected the art of cutting people down. But the worst part was watching what it did to Alicia. My wife, who had once been my best friend, my partner in everything, began to change. She started going to yoga classes 5 times a week. She bought new clothes, expensive clothes that we couldn't afford. She began talking differently, using words like mindfulness and authentic living, while looking at me like I was anything but authentic. The breaking point came on a Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee when Vanessa glided in, wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than most people's rent. "Eddie, darling," she said, opening the refrigerator and frowning at its contents. "We need to talk." I set down my mug. "About what?" "About Alicia's future. She's been accepted into a management training program at my friend's company. It's a wonderful opportunity, but it would mean relocating to Boston." My stomach dropped. She didn't mention anything about... Of course she didn't. She's too kind to hurt your feelings. But surely you can see that she's outgrown this life. This marriage. The words hit me like a physical blow. "Outgrown our marriage?" Vanessa sighed dramatically. "Eddie, you seem like a nice enough man. But let's be realistic. You're holding her back. She could have a real career, meet people who challenge her intellectually. Instead, she's stuck here playing house with someone who..." She gestured vaguely at me. "Well, someone who fixes cars." "There's nothing wrong with fixing cars." "Of course not. It's honest work. But it's not exactly the life Alicia dreamed of when she was getting her business degree, is it?" That's when Alicia walked in, fresh from another yoga class, glowing with that particular radiance that comes from expensive exercise and new possibilities. "Morning," she said, barely glancing at me as she headed straight for the coffee. "Alicia, honey," Vanessa purred. "I was just telling Eddie about the job opportunity." Alicia froze, her back still turned to me. "Vanessa." "What job opportunity?" I asked. Finally, Alicia turned around, and I could see the guilt written all over her face. "It's nothing definite, just something Vanessa mentioned." "In Boston," I said. "Eddie, please, can we not do this now?" "When exactly were you planning to do it? After you'd already moved?" Vanessa stepped between us like a referee at a boxing match. "There's no need for dramatics. We're all adults here." I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and saw a stranger. The woman I'd married, the one who used to laugh at my jokes and fall asleep in my arms watching old movies, was gone. In her place stood someone who couldn't even meet my eyes. "I'm going to the shop," I said. Neither of them tried to stop me. That afternoon, I called my best friend Ray Martinez. Ray and I had been buddies since high school, and his wife Carol was one of Alicia's closest friends. If anyone would understand what I was going through, it would be Ray. "Eddie, man, you sound terrible," Ray said when he picked up. "What's going on?" I told him everything. The job in Boston, Vanessa's comments, the way Alicia had been pulling away. Ray listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I'd always appreciated about him. "That's rough, brother," he said when I finished. "But maybe Vanessa has a point?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What?" "I mean, no offense, but Alicia is pretty smart. And she's been different lately, more confident, more, I don't know, sophisticated. Carol's been saying the same thing. Maybe this job thing is exactly what she needs. What about our marriage? What about 23 years together?" There was a long pause. "Eddie, look, I love you like a brother, but sometimes people grow apart. It happens. Maybe instead of fighting it, you should think about what's best for Alicia." I hung up without saying goodbye. That evening, I tried one more time to talk to my wife. I found her in our bedroom, packing a suitcase. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "Vanessa invited me to spend the weekend at her friend's place in the Hamptons. We're going to discuss the job opportunity. Without me. Eddie, please. This is important." "More important than our marriage?" She stopped packing and sat down on the bed. For a moment, I thought she might actually talk to me, really talk to me, like we used to. "Do you remember what you wanted to be when you were 25? She asked. "Happy," I said. "I wanted to be happy. I thought I was. I wanted to change the world. I had plans, dreams, ambitions, and then life happened, and I put all of that aside to support your business, to be a good wife, to make a home." She looked around our bedroom like she was seeing it for the first time. "I'm 46 years old, Eddie. If I don't do something now, I never will." "And I'm what's stopping you." She didn't answer, but she didn't have to. The silence said everything. After she left for the Hamptons, I sat in my empty house and realized that my marriage was over. The only question was whether I was going to go quietly or make some noise on my way out. I decided on noise. The first thing I did was call in sick to work on Monday morning. Instead of opening the shop, I drove to the local library and spent the day learning everything I could about Vanessa Pierce's new life. It turns out that when you're going through a messy divorce, your entire life becomes public record. Court documents, financial filings, depositions. It was all there, waiting for someone curious enough to look. Vanessa's marriage had imploded because she'd been having an affair with her husband's business partner. The divorce settlement had left her with significantly less money than she wanted everyone to believe. The mansion on Beacon Hill, sold to pay legal fees, the investment portfolio, frozen pending further litigation, the lifestyle she was trying to maintain, built entirely on credit cards and borrowed money. But the most interesting discovery was a restraining order filed by her ex-husband alleging harassment and threats. Apparently, Vanessa didn't take rejection well. I spent the rest of the week digging deeper, making phone calls, and piecing together the real story of my sister-in-law's perfect life. By Friday, I had enough ammunition to level a small city, but I wasn't ready to fire yet. First, I needed to understand exactly what I was up against. Alicia came home from the Hamptons on Sunday evening, glowing with excitement and full of stories about the wonderful people she'd met and the amazing opportunities ahead of her. "The job starts in 2 weeks," she announced over dinner. "I'll need to find an apartment in Boston, but Vanessa knows a realtor who can help." 2 weeks? I set down my fork. That's pretty fast. Sometimes you have to move quickly when opportunity knocks. And what about us? What about this house, the shop, our life here? Alicia looked at me like I was being deliberately obtuse. "Eddie, we both know this hasn't been working for a while. Maybe it's time to be honest about that." I thought we were being honest. I thought we were trying to work things out. When? When have we ever talked about what I want, what I need? It's always been about your business, your schedule, your comfort zone. She wasn't entirely wrong, and that made it hurt even more. So that's it? 23 years? And you're just walking away? I'm not walking away. I'm walking towards something better. That night, I lay awake planning my next move. If Alicia wanted to leave, I couldn't stop her, but I could make sure she understood exactly what she was walking toward and who she was trusting to guide her there. The next morning, I called Ray again. "Eddie, hey," he said, but his voice was different, cooler, more distant. "How are you holding up?" "I've been better. Listen, I was hoping we could grab a beer tonight. I could really use a friend right now." There was a pause. "Actually, tonight's not great. Carol and I have plans." "Tomorrow, then?" "Eddie, look, I've been thinking about our conversation last week, and I feel like maybe I should have been more supportive. But the thing is, Carol's been talking to Alicia, and..." "And what?" "And she thinks maybe it's better if we don't get in the middle of this. You know how it is. When couples split up, friends have to pick sides." The words hit me like a slap. "You're picking sides?" "We're not picking sides. We're just... Look, Alicia's going through a lot right now, and she needs support from people who understand what she's trying to do." "And I don't understand?" "Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're trying to drag her back into a life she's outgrown." There it was again, that word, outgrown. "Ray, we've been friends for 30 years. "I know, man, and I hope we still can be once everything settles down. But right now, Carol thinks it's better if we give everyone some space." I hung up and immediately called my other close friend, Mike Thompson. Mike and his wife Jennifer had been to our house dozens of times. We'd gone on vacation together, celebrated birthdays, shared holidays. "Eddie." Mike sounded genuinely happy to hear from me. "How's it going, buddy?" For a moment, I felt relief. At least one person wasn't abandoning me. "Not great, to be honest. I don't know if you heard, but Alicia and I are having some problems." "Yeah, Jennifer mentioned something about that. I'm sorry, man. That's got to be tough." "It is. I was wondering if you wanted to grab lunch this week. I could really use someone to talk to." The pause was brief, but I caught it. "You know what? Let me check my schedule and get back to you." He never got back to me. By the end of the week, the pattern was clear. One by one, our mutual friends were choosing sides, and they weren't choosing mine. Phone calls went unreturned. Invitations stopped coming. People who had been part of my life for decades suddenly became too busy to maintain the friendship. The final blow came when I ran into Carol Martinez at the grocery store. "Eddie," she said, her voice overly bright in that way people use when they're trying to avoid an awkward conversation. "How are you doing?" "I've been better. I tried calling Ray a few times, but..." "Yeah, he mentioned that." "Listen, Eddie, I hope you understand that this is nothing personal. It's just that Alicia is going through such a difficult transition right now, and she needs support from people who believe in her dreams. I always believed in her dreams? Carol's expression softened slightly. Did you? Because it seems like every time she tried to do something for herself, you found reasons why it wouldn't work. The real estate license, the book club, the volunteer work at the hospital. You always had something to say about how it would interfere with your schedule or cost too much money. I started to argue, but then I realized she wasn't entirely wrong. I had been skeptical about some of Alicia's projects, usually because they seemed to come out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly. But maybe my skepticism had become discouragement. Maybe my practical concerns had sounded like lack of support. I was just trying to be realistic, I said. Maybe, but Alicia needs people who are going to encourage her to dream bigger, not smaller. And right now, that's not you. I left the grocery store feeling like I'd been erased from my own life. My wife was leaving me, my friends had abandoned me, and apparently I was the villain in everyone else's story. That night, I sat in my empty house and made a decision. If they wanted a villain, I'd give them one. But first, I was going to make sure they understood exactly what they'd chosen over me. I spent the next week implementing phase 1 of my plan. It started with a simple phone call to Vanessa's ex-husband's attorney. Mr. Pierce is very interested in any information regarding his ex-wife's current activities, the lawyer told me, especially if she's violating the terms of their settlement agreement. According to the divorce decree, Vanessa wasn't supposed to be living with anyone or accepting financial support from family members. Both of those conditions had been violated the moment she moved into our house. More importantly, she wasn't supposed to be interfering in other people's marriages or business relationships, something the restraining order made very clear. I provided the lawyer with detailed documentation of Vanessa's stay with us, including photos of the expensive items she'd brought into our house, records of the increased utility bills and grocery costs, and copies of the credit card statements showing charges for her dinner parties and shopping trips. But the real bombshell was the recording I'd made of our conversation in the kitchen, where she explicitly stated her intention to break up my marriage and relocate my wife to Boston. "This is very helpful, Mr. Sullivan," the lawyer said. "Mr. Pierce will be pleased to know that his ex-wife is in violation of several court orders." Phase 2 involved reaching out to the company that had supposedly offered Alicia the management position. It took some digging, but I eventually tracked down the HR director who would have been responsible for making such an offer. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sullivan, but we haven't made any job offers in our management training program this quarter. In fact, we're not currently hiring for any positions that would match your wife's background." "Are you sure? My sister-in-law, Vanessa Pierce, said she had a friend at your company who—" "Oh, Ms. Pierce. Yes, she did contact us several weeks ago asking about opportunities for a family member. We explained that we don't hire based on personal recommendations and that all candidates would need to go through our standard application process. We never heard back from her. So the dream job was a fantasy, just like everything else about Vanessa's new life. Phase 3 was the most delicate. I needed to gather evidence of exactly how my friends had been turned against me, and I needed to do it in a way that would be undeniably convincing. I started with Ray. I called him one more time, but this time I was recording the conversation. "Ray, I know things have been weird between us, but I really need to understand what happened. We've been friends for 30 years. What changed?" "Eddie, look, nothing personal changed. It's just that Carol's been talking to Alicia, and, well, Alicia's been sharing some things about your marriage that made us realize we didn't know the whole story." "What kind of things?" "Things about how you've been holding her back, discouraging her from pursuing opportunities, making her feel guilty for wanting more out of life. And then there's the money situation." "What money situation?" "Come on, Eddie. Alicia told Carol about how you've been hiding money from her, keeping her on a tight budget while you spend whatever you want on your shop. She showed Carol the bank statements." My blood ran cold. "What bank statements?" "The ones showing your secret account. The one with all the money you've been stashing away while telling her you couldn't afford things she wanted." I didn't have a secret account. I'd never hidden money from Alicia. Every penny I earned went into our joint checking account, and she had access to all of it. But apparently someone had convinced her, and our friends otherwise. "Ray, there is no secret account. I don't know what Alicia showed Carol, but Eddie, she had bank statements, official documents. Are you really going to sit there and lie to me?" After I hung up, I drove straight to the bank. It took some explaining, but eventually the manager was able to show me what had happened. Someone had opened a savings account in my name using my social security number and a fake ID. The account had been funded with several large cash deposits over the past 2 months, and then the money had been transferred out to various accounts I didn't recognize. It was sophisticated identity theft, and it had been designed specifically to make me look like I was hiding assets from my wife. I filed a police report, but I already knew who was behind it. The question was whether I could prove it. That evening, I confronted Alicia directly. "I know about the bank account," I said when she walked in the door. Her face went white. "Eddie, I can explain." "Can you?" "Because I'd love to hear how you explain bank statements for an account that was opened with a stolen identity." "What are you talking about?" "The secret account you've been showing people. The one that supposedly proves I've been hiding money from you." "It's fraud, Alicia. Someone stole my identity to create fake financial records." She sank into a chair, looking genuinely confused. "That's impossible. Vanessa showed me the statements herself. She said she hired a private investigator to look into our finances because she was worried about me." "Vanessa hired a private investigator." "She was concerned about my financial security. She wanted to make sure I knew what assets we had before I made any decisions about the divorce." "What divorce? When did we start talking about divorce?" Alicia looked at me like I was being deliberately obtuse. "Eddie, come on. We both know that's where this is heading." "I didn't know that. I thought we were having problems, but I didn't know we were getting divorced." "Vanessa said you'd probably deny it, but that most men do when they're caught hiding assets." The pieces were falling into place. Vanessa hadn't just been poisoning my wife against me, she'd been systematically destroying my reputation with forged documents and manufactured evidence. "Alicia, listen to me very carefully. There is no secret account. There are no hidden assets. Your sister has been lying to you." "Why would she lie?" "Because she's trying to break us up. I don't know why, but she's been planning this since the day she moved in here." Alicia shook her head. "That's crazy. Vanessa loves me. She's trying to help me build a better life." "What better life? The job in Boston doesn't exist. I called the company. They never made you an offer." For the first time, I saw doubt creep into Alicia's eyes. "That's not possible. Vanessa's friend confirmed it." "Call them yourself. Ask to speak to HR." Alicia pulled out her phone, but before she could dial, Vanessa walked in. "What's all the shouting about?" she asked, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. She'd been listening from the hallway. "Eddie says the job offer isn't real," Alicia said. Vanessa's expression didn't change, but I caught the slight tightening around her eyes. "Of course it's real. Eddie's just trying to undermine your confidence because he's scared of losing control over you." "Then you won't mind if Alicia calls the company right now to confirm the details?" I said. "I certainly don't mind, but I think it's telling that Eddie is so desperate to sabotage this opportunity that he's willing to make you doubt yourself." It was masterfully done. She'd managed to turn my request for verification into evidence of my manipulation. But I had one more card to play. "Alicia, ask your sister about the restraining order." The color drained from Vanessa's face. "What restraining order?" Alicia asked. "The one her ex-husband filed against her for harassment and interference in other people's relationships. Ask her about the court order that specifically prohibits her from trying to break up marriages." Vanessa recovered quickly. "Eddie, you're really grasping at straws now, making up legal documents to support your paranoid fantasies." "I'm not making anything up. It's all public record. Would you like me to show Alicia the court filings?" For the first time since I'd known her, Vanessa looked genuinely rattled. "Alicia," she said, "your husband is having some kind of breakdown. This is exactly the kind of controlling, manipulative behavior I was worried about." But Alicia was looking back and forth between us, and I could see the wheels turning. "Show me," she said quietly. I pulled out my phone and showed her the court documents I'd downloaded. As she read, her expression changed from confusion to shock to something that might have been the beginning of understanding. "Vanessa," she said without looking up from the phone, "is this real?" Legal documents can be faked, sweetheart. Eddie's obviously gone to a lot of trouble to... Is it real?" The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Finally, Vanessa sighed. "The restraining order was a misunderstanding. My ex-husband was angry about the divorce settlement, and he made some very serious accusations that were later withdrawn." "Were they withdrawn?" I asked. Another pause. "The important thing," Vanessa continued, "is that I'm here because I love my sister, and I want what's best for her. Everything I've done has been to help Alicia realize her potential." By lying to her, by forging bank statements, by making up job offers? "I never forged anything. If there was a mistake about the bank account, it was an honest error, and the job offer is real. There may have been some miscommunication about the timeline, but—" "Stop," Alicia said, still staring at the phone. "Just stop talking." She looked up at me, and for the first time in months, I saw my wife instead of the stranger she'd become. "Eddie, I'm so sorry. I don't understand what's been happening, but I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. It should have been a moment of victory, but all I felt was tired." "I know you are," I said. but sorry doesn't fix what's broken. That night, Vanessa packed her bags and left without saying goodbye. The next morning, Alicia and I sat at our kitchen table and tried to figure out how to rebuild something from the wreckage of our marriage. But I wasn't done yet. There was still the matter of my friends who had abandoned me, and they were about to learn that actions have consequences. The plan I'd been developing for weeks was elegant in its simplicity. I was going to give my former friends exactly what they'd given me: public humiliation and social isolation. But I was going to do it in a way that would make them understand the full weight of their betrayal. I started by organizing a surprise party. The invitations went out on a Wednesday, sent to everyone who had been part of our social circle before Vanessa's arrival. Ray and Carol Martinez, Mike and Jennifer Thompson, and a dozen other couples who had slowly distanced themselves from me over the past month. The invitation was for a reconciliation celebration at the community center, supposedly organized by Alicia to announce that we were working things out and to thank everyone for their support during our difficult time. Of course, Alicia knew nothing about it. The beauty of the plan was that none of them would want to miss it. They'd all been so invested in the drama of our marriage falling apart that they couldn't resist the opportunity to see how the story ended. Plus, they'd want to make sure they were back in Alicia's good graces now that she was staying. I spent the week before the party preparing my presentation. I'd gathered evidence of every lie, every betrayal, every moment when people who claimed to care about me had chosen to believe the worst without even asking for my side of the story. I arrived early, setting up a projector with slides, detailing Vanessa's manipulation, bank records proving identity theft, court documents showing her interference, phone records of her fake job recruiter. The centerpiece? Recordings. I'd called my former friends faking desperation. They spilled their true thoughts. Ray called me controlling, Carol said I was beneath Alicia, Mike laughed at my cluelessness, Jennifer questioned my stability. Guests arrived, expecting to celebrate Alicia's victory. Alicia, surprised, whispered, "Eddie, what's this?" "Trust me," I said. At 8, I spoke. "You're here for Alicia and me, but first, let's clear the air." Slides showed Vanessa's fraud, restraining orders, fake calls, forged statements. Murmurs grew. Then I played their recordings. Faces paled, silence fell. 23 years of friendship, I said. You believed lies, abandoned me. I looked at Alicia. You wanted to celebrate, but you showed your true colors. We left. Voices erupted behind us, excuses, blame. In the truck, Alicia said, "That was brilliant. They deserved it." At home, she asked, "Now what?" "We rebuild without interference," I replied. Vanessa faced fraud charges. My former friends' relationships crumbled. Alicia and I entered counseling, rebuilding trust. That night, in our home, I felt peace, not from revenge, but from reclaiming my worth. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.